Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guys, Mo Nawara in the Midwest, and we've got Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are taking a look at Week 17 in the NFL, not the last week of the season. Obviously, 2 more to go still. In this one, we got plenty of games to choose from in Week 17, so we are going to be bringing you a passing prop, rushing prop, and receiving prop as we do each and every week this NFL season. Also want you to head to TheLines.com. That's where we have our great written content for you guys all season long, and our odds finder tool that we're all using over here to make sure we're getting the best juice back on all these bets we're making in the NFL this season. Let's go ahead and jump into our first passing prop of the day here, and we've got a fun one in that Broncos-Chiefs matchup. Nate, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, nowhere to go but up for the Broncos. Finally moved on from Nathaniel Hackett. It'll be Jerry Rosburn taking over the final 2 games, and he's been very adamant in backing Russell Wilson as our guy. I mean, they paid him $245 million and traded away the farm for him, so they basically have to back him. And he said he's going to put a game plan in place to maximize his skills. So 220 passing yards. I think the 15 rushing yards is also a good bet for Wilson here. He's just going to be in playmaking Russ mode. I mean, with the Broncos plus 12.5 against an obvious contender. This is kind of like their Super Bowl over these last 2 here. He's not going to get so many short fields again. I mean, Mahomes threw 3 picks in that last matchup, and Russ still had 250 passing, 3 touchdowns, basically his best game, 36 pass attempts. KC secondary is all right. I mean, they're 22nd in DVOA pass defense, and it sounds like Cortland Sutton's going to be a lot closer to full health, getting both him and Judy out there. Gives Russ enough weapons. They probably won't be able to run the ball very effectively, so I just think volume here can get him over this number.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. It is a low number for sure, and it is an offense that, did have some success against the Chiefs last time out. That being said, I guess I'm concerned that Russ is just going to play pretty poorly, and or the receiving core isn't as healthy. Maybe I'm not as optimistic about Jerry Jeudy, and he was basically the only thing they had going last time against the Chiefs. Like, he had like million catches for 150 yards plus or something. He scored 3 times. If he's not able to get it done, then I'd be a little worried here, but it is a game where I do kind of lean towards the over, so there is that. I could definitely see some points being scored here. If it goes over, then it would be pretty hard for him not to go over, I guess. Be a little concerned about the Broncos maybe quitting here, though, after last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really does come down to if Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton are playing in this one for Russ. You look at this, the differences this season in his numbers when he's got both of those guys versus really just one or neither of them. And obviously, it's a pretty big difference there in his rating and the amount of yards and his TD to interception ratio. Everything's obviously a lot better when he has his 2 best receivers out there. So I think Nate's bet here is definitely reliant upon that pretty heavily. So we've got one more passing prop here from you, Mo, and it's a Baker Mayfield prop. Let's go ahead and talk about that one.
Yeah, I was looking at a few different ones, going a little bit of a different direction, although traditional ways, 195.5 yards here. I like the over on that one a little bit as well. I think it's a bit too low. Rams facing off against the Chargers in a double home game of sorts, whatever you want to call it, Battle of LA. I like Baker Mayfield. Yes, interception prop. I believe it was around a minus 125, minus 130. I'm a little surprised it's not closer to like minus 170, at least minus 150. I mean, this is a very low number. Then I was looking up some of his numbers. I get why the market is kind of having some confidence in him to be able to be a little bit safe, basically because that's how he's been playing. Insanely low interception rate, 1.2%. That's like an Aaron Rodgers type number since he's been with the Rams. But that being said, it's all coming from checkdowns. 5.7 ADOT since he went to LA. I mean, that is like disgustingly low. You just won't see a number like that in a full season. I mean, a low number is usually like mid 6 is like pretty low A dot. So he's sitting 5.7. He's basically doing nothing but dumping off. I don't think that's going to be able to like work here at all. You're looking at a situation where they are 6.5-point dogs against a Chargers team that is pretty much rolling right now, playing its best football of the season, probably. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, even though that's usually the formula against the Chargers. They just don't have the O-line for it. So lost another O-line starter with Brian Allen, I believe, going out a week or two ago. So I think there's going to be a high volume of passing here. I do like the Chargers minus the 6.5, so that makes me think they're going to build a lead. I don't think Baker Mayfield in a negative script against an aggressive, talented defense is going to go well in terms of taking care of the ball. He's going to have to throw it downfield a little more here. We know the type of mistakes he can make under pressure. Like that 1.2% INT rate, I mean, really stands out compared to the rest of his career, which is usually double to triple that number. It's a very talented secondary, obviously, and they could be getting Joey Bosa back here. Did activate him off IR. I'm not sure if he's going to play in this one or not. If he does, that would obviously be a huge boost to this pass rush. More pressure, more potential for Baker Mayfield to be making mistakes here. So I expect at least one turnover. I honestly expect multiple turnovers. And I like anything you can really get on Baker Mayfield that's going to expect a high volume. I think they're going to have to throw a lot of passes here.
Yeah, especially with the way this Chargers defense has been rolling. As you say, the quote-unquote battle for L.A. will be an interesting one. You might even like a linebacker to pick off Baker in this one. If he's going to be throwing the ball 5.5 yards down the field, he's not even going to give these DBs a chance to even get their hands on the ball, as they're might as well just step on top of the guy and play that bump coverage the whole time at this point. But still an opportunity for a Baker interception. He's played probably above his pay grade at this point as a Ram. So we should be able to see a little bit of more of the old Baker coming into play here with a Chargers defense flying around the ball, like we said. So let's move on to your first rushing prop here, Nate, and talk about Mr. Kenneth Skywalker, as you've so dubbed him so far this season for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I agree with Mo on the yardage for Baker Mayfield. I think he really hasn't had a normal situation with the Rams yet. I mean, was pretty efficient in that blowout win, but this is a situation where he'll be passing from behind. So like 195, I think that's low. As far as rushing, I'm going, with Kenny Walker and the Seahawks. Not the most ideal matchup, but the Jets have allowed 122 on the ground in their last 5, allowing 5 straight opponents to go over 100. And there's just no competition for touches with Walker. I mean, Travis Homer's probably going to miss. DJ Dallas might play, but he's really just a third down gadget back. Walker, they're committed to him regardless of game script. We saw last week they got down big at KC, still gave him 26 carries. He still got over 100 yards. He had a 75% snap share when he came back against San Francisco in a tough matchup. And we talked about just his ability to make dudes miss. 34% juke rate, 51 yards created per game. He's just a difference-making back. So 69 rush yards is the prop here. I just think he's going to be the main source of offense for Seattle at home, where they can kind of dictate how they want this game to go.
This is an interesting pick, actually, because I do like the over in this game. 41.5, I think, is what I got it at. It's up to 42.5. I just wonder if they go about it a different way, though. I kind of was looking pretty hard at Geno Smith over. It's like 237.5. I think they're going to be passing the ball, but if the Seahawks do beat their heads against the wall and keep handing off, like you said, Kenneth Walker basically gets every start. I think my main hang up with this one would honestly be the fact that he's coming in banged up. I don't think he's practiced this week. I'm not even positive he's going to play. Although I think this is what happened last week and he ended up playing. And like you said, he's getting all the touches still, but I guess I'm just a little worried he's going to get hurt and knocked out of a game like the way he did a few weeks back. I can't remember which game it was, but there was one where he did start the game and then end up coming out of it. He hasn't been 100% for quite some time, and the Jets do have quite a strong run defense for sure. But 68.5 is obviously a doable number if he is able to hold up physically.
And I think what you're hinting at here a bit, Nate, too, is the idea that he could potentially go over that receiving prop as well, if that's sort of what they turn to in this game, as you mentioned, that run game sort of beating them into submission to a degree. But I think you can expect a bit more too if Kenneth Walker is going to be in that game as often as we think he is in that snap share. Then I think you feel pretty good about either of those numbers as well for him. Moving on to another guy, also getting a ton of rushing attempts, Justin Fields. Talk to us about his rushing number today. Or Sunday rather, Mo.
Yeah, we know Justin Fields has been rolling for the most part. Obviously, it pretty much came to a stop last week. The Bills really were able to corral him. I think he only had like 11 yards rushing. The number is 70.5 here. This would have looked crazy 2 months ago, but here we are. Since week 6, he's averaging like 90 yards per game. That's basically when he started. Double-digit rushing attempts on average, about 12 attempts per game in that time. Last time versus the Lions was one of those crazy games. He ran for 147 yards. I think there's a good reason for that. The Lions do play a ton of man, so he does see the backsides of a lot of DBs. They are a top 5 in man rate. Pretty much every year. I guess it seems like the transition away from Matt Patricia, who was running kind of the Patriots man-heavy system over there. I don't know if there was like some legacy thing where they wanted to keep with what the DBs were used to or what's going on, because the new staff is basically doing the same thing, still top 5 in man defense here. No Darnell Mooney. I think that maybe affects Fields a little bit. Maybe he takes off an extra time or two because he can't find somebody downfield. And the biggest thing for me here is that the game total is 52.5. So I'm having a really hard time seeing Fields staying under if this gets anywhere near that total, basically. I mean, I don't know how else the Bears are moving the ball. So playing against a Detroit offense that has really been kind of crushing it when they are not outside. So I think they're going to have to keep pace with some points here. The market certainly expects a lot of points here. Detroit has been playing faster than almost anyone. They are top 10 in pace. They are top 10 in situation neutral pace. And even with the lead, which they're expected to have, they're 6-point favorites here. They're third fastest team with a lead of at least 7 points per Football Outsiders. So, if this total basically has any merit, then I don't see Fields staying under this number.
I could kind of look at it the other way, though, that, I mean, with no receivers out there last week, the Bills kind of set the blueprint for like, okay, all we got to do is gap discipline and stop Fields from beating us with his legs. And I mean, the fact that he burnt Detroit so bad last time they played, the fact that they got steamrolled by Carolina last week, they have to sell out to stop the run right now. I mean, this is like the biggest game for them. 70 yards isn't an extraordinary number. So, I mean, I definitely think he breaks 1 or 2 big runs. He can get there, but I don't know about the total at 52.5. I think they might find a way to go under this. I think the Bears are kind of close to calling it a year, and maybe they don't want to hurt Fields at this point. I mean, they shouldn't be. It was utterly ridiculous to throw him out there in -15 last week. But I guess they're going to keep doing it. I'll wrap us up in receiving props here. Love this one because I love Mike White back in there for the Jets. And that means he'll be looking for his guy. I mean, his guys will be excited because you can't say enough bad things about Zach Wilson's leadership. All the receivers love playing with Mike White, especially Garrett Wilson, who in his last 2 starts had 14 catches on 22 targets for a total of 240 yards at the Vikings, at the Bills. He's played at least 96% of the snaps in 3 straight. Wilson has, dynamic rookie. He's at 64.5 receiving yards. I like that. I don't see the receptions prop yet, but it should be 5.5, maybe 6.5 with plus odds. And I think he can get 7 catches as long as the Jets are in a negative game script to some degree here. He plays enough in the slot that I think he avoids Tariq Woolen, who's the Seahawks' best corner. He should see a lot of Kobe Bryant, the rookie, who's a big dude, Not really great against quicks like Wilson. I mean, he allows 2.2 yards of separation per target. So I think Wilson should get open plenty. And Mike White is a quick decision maker who can just get him the ball and stop being
well, the best thing that Mike White has going for him is not being Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson's leadership skills aside, I think guys like Garrett Wilson would just like to be have a ball thrown to them in rhythm at the point of his route where he's expecting the fucking ball to come to his way. And that's what Zach Wilson doesn't seem to be able to do, especially with that timing. And Mike White's a lot more fearless. So yeah, anytime you've got Mike White out there, I feel a lot better about a Jets receiver, especially the immaculate rook so far this year. Where do you stand on the Garrett Wilson pick there, Mo?
Yeah, I like this one. Like I said, I do like the game total over in this game. So I know there's got to be some offense coming from somewhere. And he's obviously shown way, way more chemistry with Mike White than Zach Wilson. I mean, even he was catching a lot of passes with Flacco too. So I think it's basically if Zach Wilson's not in there, I think we should be relatively bullish on Garrett Wilson's potential. And yeah, I think both offenses are going to have some success. So I like this over, I think.
For sure. Let's finish things off here with our last receiving prop, Mo. And we're talking about a Buccaneer wide receiver that hasn't actually been the best one this season, Mike Evans. But we've got another a shot for Tampa Bay to sort of try to own that South division if anybody would like to win it. Mike Evans receiving prop at 58.5. Where do you lean towards this on this one?
Yeah, taking another kind of buy low over spot here, I think. Evans hasn't been doing well lately, obviously. Tampa Bay's been pretty poor in a number of facets, but getting the ball to Mike Evans has definitely been one of them. Seems like just basically every other pass is a dump off to Chris Godwin, and the ones that aren't dump offs to Chris Godwin are dump offs to Leonard Fournette. I mean, it's pretty crazy to look at last week. Godwin had so many catches, and he still had 37 air yards. I mean, 37 air yards on that type of volume is just insane. I mean, they're not getting the ball down the field at all. And I think that's obviously reflective of where Tom Brady is at as a football player at this point. That being said, Evans still had over 80 air yards last week, so more than twice as many as Godwin. And he's catching a nice break here with J.C. Horn being out for the Panthers. I believe he's going on IR and he's done for the year. But yeah, he's not going to be playing in this one, and he's been one of the best corners in the NFL. And even in this really poor stretch, I mean, Evans is still getting a ton of targets. 8 targets per game, even since his play basically fell off, which was I believe it was week 9. Still getting 8 targets per game in that time. He really did kind of torch the Panthers last time these teams played. 9 for 96, 15 targets, and I think everyone remembers that 75-yard touchdown he biffed it and dropped. So should have been even bigger week than he had. And I like Tampa Bay to cover the -3 here. So if they're going to be scoring, and if Tom Brady's passing prop, which is 280, I mean, if that number has any merit once again, then I don't see how Evans should be at 58.5.
And this is the type of stuff that you've been seeing from Tom Brady as well. These numbers, and you don't expect him to get there. Maybe an abysmal first half, and then he just comes out firing once again in the second half as well. So even if you don't see this prop going well early for these Buccaneers and Evans and Brady, I think you can still expect them to continue to just heave the ball in the second half in a way that gets Brady close to that 280 number, and then you feel even better about the Mike Evans prop there at 58.5. So that is all the time we have for you in our second to last regular season video here for you guys. NFL Coast to Coast and the props. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Still going to be coming back to you next week, and looking forward to some more postseason stuff with you guys as well. So until we see you next, happy betting.